what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing a what's next on IBF Welterweight champion, undefeated, Jaron Ennis, following his impressive TKO victory over David Avanesyan that took place in the main event of a July 13th DAZN card. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So it was an impressive performance out of Boots. It was it went as expected. He dominated. He kept coming forward. He got hit with some shots, but I think Boots was out for blood. I think he wanted to decisively win this fight, and he did what a lot of guys won't do. He took risk in order to go secure the knockout victory. He was able to get the fight to where it was stopped in the 5th round. And that was all she wrote. It was a good, solid performance. He broke down Avanesyan and stopped him. And remember, Avanesyan was a replacement opponent for Cody Crowley. Again, he went and got a solid victory and is still the welterweight champ. It was actually the first win of his career, or first title defense of his reign here. So now the big question is, what's next for Boots following this victory? And, it's tough to say because not a lot of guys want to fight him. I really hope the IBF doesn't put the mandatory locks on him, at least not for the guy who's number one, that caught on Chukin's whatever. Because remember, Boots beat that dude's ass on the Tank Hector Luis Garcia fight in January of last year, 2023. Boots beat his ass, and that dude didn't even try to fight. He just ran the whole fight. So he somehow has worked his way to be the number one contender in the IBF again. And I hope they don't put the mandatory for a rematch. That'd be terrible, because that dude is trash, at least compared to Boots. And we've already seen it. So, I'm hoping they make that guy fight Cody Crowley at least to earn it. But let's run through the top 10 and see. We start with number 1, Terrence Bud Crawford. Bud's not going to fight Boots. I think the only chance Boots has of this fight is if Bud were to lose to Madrimov and move back down to welterweight. But if he loses to Madrimov, I just think he's going to try to get a rematch against Madrimov. It depends on how he loses. So, do I really think, though, after a loss, he's going to want to come down and fight a guy as threatening as Boots? Absolutely not. I don't see that. Then there's former unified champ Errol Spence Jr. Not going to happen. Errol's moving up to 154 in his next fight. Likely fighting Sebastian Fundora. Spence is done at 147, and he's definitely not going to fight Boots next, even if he wasn't. Then you got Mario Barrios, the WBC champion. I would say the chances of Boots and Barrios has increased with Manny Pacquiao not looking great, because that was expected to be Barrios' next opponent. But I really believe the PBC is not going to work with Boots fighting under Matchroom and DAZN. They would rather probably unify between Barrios and Amanta Stanionis because they're both within the PBC. So sadly, I don't think Barrios and Boots has a chance of happening. Then there's Amanta Stanionis, who's currently the WBA regular champion. He's likely going to be upgraded to full champion once Bud this weekend moves up to 154. And if he's victorious, as he's expected to be, I think then he's going to give up his welterweight titles, and Stanionis will then be upgraded to full welterweight champ. But again, like I just said, I believe Stanionis and Barrios is likely to happen. Now, if Barrios goes forward with a Manny Pacquiao fight, which I don't think is going to happen now, but if he goes forward with that, then I guess the opportunity is there for Boots and Stanionis. But again, the PBC would have to work with Matchroom for this fight, and I don't think the PBC wants to give up an opportunity, give up a world title, because Boots would be the odds-on favorite in that fight. So sadly, I don't see this fight happening either. Then you got Brian Norman Jr. I don't see this one. Brian Norman's the WBO interim champ. He's likely going to be upgraded to full champion. Once Bud gives up the belt if he's victorious this weekend at 154. And then Brian Norman is a top-ranked guy. Would Top Rank and Matchroom and DAZN be willing to make a unification bout? I think they might, because Brian Norman might really want the fight. 2 undefeated American fighters, but I do think that Top Rank might want to build the fight a little bit more first before they sign on for a big showdown. But I could see this being kind of like when Top Rank and Matchroom worked together for Maurice Harris and Jose Ramirez when they unified belts. I think it could be in a situation like that. Like, hey, we want a unified champ. Both these guys want to fight each other. Let's make it happen. So I do think there is some kind of a chance of this one, but I'm leaning towards the less likely. Then Cody Crowley. I hope Crowley gets the fight. You know, it would be Boots' biggest fight on paper going in. Crowley can box, he can fight a little bit. It's the fight that we were supposed to see. I hope they allow Crowley to still get the crack at Boots. And I hope this is the mandatory fight that Boots gets. But we'll see. Then there's former champ Dennis Ugas. He's not going to get the fight. He hasn't fought since his second consecutive loss to Mario Barrios last year. It's almost a year now since he's fought. I don't see him returning to fight Boots, and I don't think Boots would want to fight him anyways. Then there's Abel Ramos. I would love to see this fight, but Ramos, again, is with the PBC. So it'd be a tough one unless Eddie Hearn could really offer Ramos a good amount of money to come over to Matchroom and fight, and the PBC was okay with it, then maybe this fight would be possible. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards the less likely on this one as well. Then there's Giovanni Santillan, who rounds out my top 10 right now. He's a top rank. He has ties with Top Rank, and he's coming off of a bad loss to knockout loss to Brian Norman Jr. I don't think he'd want to come back even with an opportunity at a title against Boots, because he'd come in a heavy underdog, and he's already coming off of a loss. So I don't see that one either. And then there's some of the other guys. Giyasov is the WBO WBA #1. I think he's going to try to cash in on that unless he can't get the fight, maybe. Silamane Sisorko, the WBC's #1 ranked contender. If he can't get the WBC shot, maybe, he'd express some interest in Boots. Then there's that Karen Zajian in a rematch. Again, why would Boots want to take that fight? It makes no sense. So I don't see that one. And then there's Conor Benn. Would love to see this fight, but I think it needs more build. I think Conor Benn legitimately needs to come back down to 147. And really earn that fight, because it's a really good fight. I just think it needs more build. And then finally, the Jin Sasaki, who's the WBO's #2 contender. He is ranked at #5 or 6 in the IBF right now. I would like to see the fight, but Boots, I don't know if he's going to fight another IBF guy without having to make a mandatory. So Boots, he might get strapped with a mandatory. I just hope it's Cody Crowley. But what I really hope for is that they allow Crowley to re-earn his #1 spot, because, he failed the eye test, the eye exam to get it was a medical reason why he failed to get the fight with Boots. I think he still wants it. So why not make that Chuk Karazadian earn the fight with Boots, the rematch, by beating Crowley? So, and ordering that final eliminator to determine Boots is next, and let Boots fight in an optional defense. So it's going to be interesting to see who Boots gets in his next fight, because not a lot of guys are lining up to fight him. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens for Boots Ennis following his victory in his last fight over David Avanesyan. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on undefeated IBF welterweight champion of the world, Jaron Boots Ennis, following his 5th round TKO victory over David Avanesyan. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.